California? Is anyone out there in California? Anyone out there in California? Do you have something to say? You got anything to say about this? Who voted for these people? What's happening? What? Hello? California. What is going on? Hey everyone, I know I talk about this all the time, but it's a really important thing and it's affecting, it will affect our entire country. So I think that you're probably interested. It looks like you are because these videos typically get more views than some of the other ones that I've done. So if you're getting sick of this, hang in there. Come on now, this is important. So today we have some progression in Texas, and we also have some information coming out of California where the California Republican lawmakers tried to file a lawsuit with the Supreme Court to fight the Democrat efforts to push this legislation for their new congressional districting map, where they want to hold a special election in November, and they have to get this decided ASAP. So I've got a little bit about that, and then I've got a little bit of clips of their Democrat lawmakers refusing to answer the question about who exactly created this map. So Republican assembly members asked who created the map, because we're assembly members and we weren't a part of it. So who exactly did it? And they literally get shut down by multiple different people. Nobody's answering the question. Like, it's this big secret. And the wonder is, are you having like lobbyists involved in this map creation, this map drawing process, potentially? Like, what exactly is going into this? Because this is not drawn bipartisan in any way, which, not, to be fair, neither was the Texas map. Okay, I'm not stupid. I'm not, like, I am biased, but at the same time, I'm not an idiot. I understand that Texas is gerrymandering. I just don't really care that much. So call me a bad person if you want. I just really don't care that much, because the major Democrat states that have been gerrymandering for decades have done it to the point that's even worse than what Texas is doing right now. And they want to make it even worse. But I also want to mention real quick that last night, the Texas House, as expected, passed the redistricting plan. Now it is in the Senate right now. I don't even think that I need to look at that. I already know that it was passed by the Senate committee, and I'm 100% confident that the Senate is going to pass it. So the redistricting plan for Texas is going to be passed ultimately. There are multiple different lawsuits. If you haven't been watching the channel, there are multiple different lawsuits that have already been in existence regarding this map, fighting against it before the Texas runaways decided to go to Illinois and break quorum for 2 weeks for literally no reason, because there is a judicial process to this, which California lawmakers are actually following. So like I said, the California lawmakers they petitioned the Supreme Court to stop what the Democrats are trying to do right now, because they are kind of like overstepping on amendments to their laws that were created years ago, that were voted on by the citizens, to have a bipartisan committee that draws these districting maps, which is why the question comes into play so seriously. Who drew these maps? Because it wasn't the committee. So are they actually like overstepping the law, or are they allowed to do this? I'm not an expert, but let's take a look at what we're dealing with here.
Republican lawmakers in California have filed a lawsuit asking the state Supreme Court to stop Democrats from moving ahead with a plan to redraw congressional districts. This all comes after Texas Republicans proposed a new plan to draw some new congressional maps that would have given Republicans 5 more seats in the U.S. House. California Democrats then introduced bills of their own to create new district boundaries that could help Democrats gain 5 seats in the House.
However, California law requires an independent commission to create congressional boundaries, which means the lawmakers would need voters' approval to draw the new maps, which would require a special election. California Democrats plan to pass these bills tomorrow and hold the special election on November the 4th. The lawsuit argues the California Constitution prohibits the legislature from acting on the bills until September 18th, because new legislation requires a 30-day review period. Still not clear when a judge plans to make a ruling in this case.
Joining us now, our chief legal analyst, Conley Froze. Khalifa, I'll start here. Is it as black and white as that is the state constitution requirement for that 30-day review period unless you can get the majority to push that through? Does it kind of die right there?
I won't say it dies, but it would prolong it. I think for sure there's a couple things with this whole story, and you got to talk about Texas if you're going to talk about this. That what occurred in Texas is wrong. What's occurring in California is wrong, and they are both directly connected to one another. The redistricting in Texas, the attempt to grab seats, potentially 5 seats that are now Democratic seats that now will flip to Republican seats by the drawing of the maps, was a power play and a power grab, specifically partisan base. So in California, in response, what do? Okay, we'll shore up those seats and give you 5 seats in California. The problem is California already voted to remove partisan map making from their process, and so now we're going to add 2 wrongs to what California's doing, attempting the first tit for tat, what Texas did, but also violate what the voters have already agreed on that they shouldn't be doing. California was already in the right. Removing the political gerrymandering of map building from the process is extremely important. Having independent review council create maps is probably the national standard for how every state should be. But because we don't live in a bubble, because we don't live in some magical place where every state's going to be uniformity in the way that they respond, you'll have a state that does something and now you'll have a reaction. This reaction, I think, is also a misstep, but it's the step that Newsom has talked about doing, someone with political presidential aspirations, obviously, so any way that he can jab or stick a point to President Trump, he'll do that. I just think that in the long run, voters are hurt. And then what happens next? What's the next tit for tat? Now you have other states that can go back and say, all right, I can give you 4 more from my state. This back and forth of redrawing lines to remove one person and add another person from a political party doesn't hurt the elected officials. It just hurts the voters. So now you live in those states. If you're a Democrat and you're living in Texas, you actually have no chance of electing anyone to speak on your behalf. And now on the other side, if you're a Republican living in California, looks like you have no chance of electing someone to speak and represent you on your behalf. So these elections that we're having now are sham at best, because you won't be able to vote in anyone that you want to get in the seat, because they've been drawn out and mapped to where your vote doesn't count anymore.
Well, and you're already speaking.
And he's not wrong. I've been saying they're both gerrymandering, which I'm going to clear this up again because some people still don't understand that political gerrymandering is legal. I still see a bunch of people commenting, not mainly on my videos, but on other people's videos and on these news sources, that gerrymandering is illegal, that political gerrymandering is illegal. Can these people not do like a 5-second search? Like, really? The Supreme Court has ruled that political gerrymandering is 100% legal and constitutional. Is it the right thing to do? Maybe not. But is everyone playing on a fair level playing field? No, they're not. In my opinion, and in what I've researched, it looks like Democrats have started this whole fight. So now Republicans are joining in. But political gerrymandering is legal. What is illegal is racial gerrymandering, which is what the lawsuits regarding the Texas redistricting map are about. They're trying to prove that the number one reason that they redistricted was to take votes away from black and brown people and give all the voting power to white people. That's going to be really difficult to prove. What I will say is what California is doing is a bit worse, because 38% of their voters voted Republican. And if their new map goes into effect, only 8% representation will be experienced by those Republicans, 38% of their voters, which is insane. That's absolutely insane. They're already gerrymandered down to 17% representation for their Republican voters. So, like, they're just taking it to a whole new level, and they are going to trigger, like he said, they're going to trigger a cause and effect. If all the Republican states do this, Democrats are over. Like, y'all are done. California would probably be best just to sit the fuck down and stop. They would probably be best just to sit down and stop. New York, Illinois, they need to sit down and stop, because what they're about to trigger is absolutely going to be a deathbed for them. 100%. So this lawsuit in California has already been thrown out. It's already been thrown out, which I'm not surprised at all. So they're going to continue to try and get lawsuits together to fight this. I don't think that they're going to be able to. It is going to be approved. Their special election for November is going to be approved. And then their citizens are going to have to vote on whether or not to table this committee that they voted on. Like, they actually voted this into law. And now it seems like California is going behind their backs to get this map together in order to entice their Democrat voters to vote to throw out this map. They're fear mongering. They're doing all this stuff. Republicans are going to take over forever. Democracy is going to be dead. Well, they're participating in killing democracy because their Republicans will have no say in their state whatsoever. And my guess is the Republicans in their state are going to start moving out and take their voting dollars with them. That's just my 2 cents. So another part of this is these Democrat lawmakers are not answering questions about who is redrawing these maps. This is some shady shit, y'all. Shady.
All that, who drew the maps? It's a very simple question. Names, preferably.
The assembly.
The assembly did it.
Okay, I'm in the assembly and I did not draw these maps.
Well, you're not the leadership.
No, and I'm aware of that. But the same way that in this bill it says that the Assembly Elections Committee, not Chair Pellerin, not Assemblymember Salache, not Assemblymember Bennett, I am a part of that group. So by association, I have been lumped in, Mr. Bennett. So I'm asking, who drew these maps?
The
Not general
the
groups.
legislature drew the maps.
Who specifically in the legislature?
The legislature drew the maps.
This is transparency that we don't get to know who drew the
The
maps.
legislature drew the maps.
Absolutely pitiful. You saw from the video yesterday how the other lady that was there, and we're about to hear from her too, again, not answering any questions or trying not to. Well, no, this time she's actually not answering. Yesterday, other people answered for her because she was being a total see you next Tuesday. But we'll hear from her in a minute. But these people literally are trying to hide who drew the maps. Why are they trying to hide it? I think hopefully we find out the exact reason why they're trying to hide this from the public. It really doesn't make any sense. Why can't you just rattle off the names of who participated in this? This should be a matter of public knowledge. Like, it should be open to the public.
Today began their 3-day cram session to hear, vote, and approve new congressional maps that could be presented to voters in a special election this fall.
All right, so this effort is to send more Democrats to Washington, D.C., and it's all in response to what's happening in Texas, where President Trump has asked lawmakers there to do the same, but for Republicans.
California lawmakers keep promising this will be the most transparent process in the nation. That's what they keep saying, but today they struggled to answer a basic question in all of this.
Very basic question. KCRA 3 Capitol correspondent Ashley Zavala joins us now with what she repeatedly asked today.
Yeah, I mean, it really wasn't clear. That basic question is who exactly is responsible for these maps. In that special election, who can California voters look to specifically when they want to know who put these new congressional districts together? It really was not clear in any of the hearings today. Both the state Senate and Assembly Elections Committees had a lengthy discussion.
I just had an idea. What if they're not telling who drew these maps because they feel like if they do, some of these people may not be voted back in because the citizens will actually be able to see just how it's not technically corrupt because this is legal. You're allowed to politically gerrymander, but this level of gerrymandering in a state this big with that many congressional seats, like, I could see some Democrat voters looking at that and saying, the few Democrat voters that have some sense left, because there are some, I could see them saying like, y'all are the blackest pot, calling the kettle black. Like, you're the darkest pot in the bunch. And you are pointing the fingers and acting like you're standing up for democracy when what you're really doing is completely destroying it in retaliation to a Republican state doing the exact same thing that you have been doing forever. So I wonder if they don't want to tell anyone because they don't want their constituents to know who is putting out this level of gerrymandering that should potentially be made unconstitutional, in my opinion.
On the redistricting push overall, a reminder that this is happening as California already has an independent redistricting commission that is responsible for doing this work after the census. California voters took the power away from politicians nearly 2 decades ago because they didn't like that lawmakers were drawing districts for themselves. So with that, I asked both the Democratic leaders of each elections committee, who is responsible for drawing these new proposed congressional districts?
Governor Gavin Newsom promised that no special interests or this would be transparent. This would not be done in a back room. So we're trying to ascertain in this very short amount of time that you have to deliberate this, who exactly are the maps responsible for?
Happening very quickly, and the folks that were drawing the maps went back to the Independent Redistricting Commission's testimony and what they heard during their time when they were deliberating this, and they themselves ran out of time to do the work that they needed to do, and so we're basically
They ran out of time because you came up with this out of fucking nowhere and told them you need a map drawn now. So they ran out of time, admittedly, because you gave them very little time to do it. And so you just took over. And now you're not going to tell us any of who created this map.
these on the Voting Rights Act, and we're looking at really bringing the voters into this process, and that's why we're going to an election on November 4th, because at the end of the day, the voters' voice is what matters.
And we're asking because voters back in 2000,
except for the Republicans, because we want full control.
In 2010, took the power away from politicians to draw maps because
we meaning Democrats, not Republicans.
They did not like that it was an incumbent protection plan. So we just need to know. I mean, that's why we're asking.
These are definitely unusual times. We are no longer governing in a democracy. We're governing in an authoritarian government. We are seeing things that we care so deeply about in California. We have education, food for children, our immigrant community, our LGBT community. They are getting decimated by this.
Keep the LGB out your fucking mouth, lady. Keep it out your mouth. All that these Democrats have done is create an environment that is lowering gay acceptance all over the country. You aren't helping us. You are literally destroying everything and encompassing this evil propaganda that everyone used to think about this. And now you are putting it all into law and affecting children and everything. Keep me out your mouth, you nasty. Keep me out your mouth.
Administration. This is an all-out assault on California's democracy and the rights and values. So we have to move quickly, but we are bringing the voters on to this process. We're letting them know the maps have been posted on the website. We have this election on November 4th, and at the end of the day, the voters will decide what is important to them and whether they want to adjust these maps to give California the voice it needs in Congress.
Madam Chair, can you say whether or not state lawmakers involved in drawing the maps? Any state lawmakers at all?
Not to my knowledge.
But who adjusted them last night at 8 p.m.?
It was my understanding that they were by 8 a.m. They were out there.
No, there's an adjustment.
Hold on. She just lied. She said that state lawmakers were not involved in drawing these maps right after she said that the committee said that they didn't have enough time. And then the legislature took over. She might not have said the legislature took over, but wait till this. We just heard in the last video. They just said the legislature drew the maps. And then here we have this woman saying that the state lawmakers, who is the legislature, didn't draw the maps. So am I missing something? Sometimes I look at these and I'm making these videos and I'm like, am I losing my mind? Did I just see what I saw, or am I missing something? So let me know in the comments, did I just miss something, or did she just lie? It looks like she just lied.
Collaboration, but we can get to the people that actually did that work.
So then why does the legislation say the detailed maps are prepared by the Assembly and State Senate elections committees?
So the reality is that it was a collaboration, and we can get those specifics, but I think what's most important is the maps are out there for people to see, to evaluate.
In other words, you just caught me in a lie, and I'm going to twist it over and change the subject with my answers that I've been given by my lawyer.
Way to make a judgment on the lines are the lines.
Madam Chair, but when you consume something, don't you want to know who makes it? When you are presented with something, don't you want to know where it's coming from? Don't voters deserve to know?
When I go to a restaurant, I don't need to meet the chef.
So did this committee meet?
When I go to a restaurant, I don't need to meet the chef. She's literally saying voters have no right and don't even feel. She's deciding for voters that they don't want to know, or they feel like they don't need to know who drew the maps right after she lied on camera. California? Is anyone out there in California? Anyone? Anyone out there in California? Do you have something to say? You got anything to say about this? Who voted for these people? What's happening? What? Hello? California. What is going on? This is the woman who would not answer any questions yesterday. The assembly member that we saw in the first video, the video that was on Instagram, asking who drew the congressional maps, was asking this person, what is the verbiage in the bill that dictates when each district gets funding for the special election? And this woman kept on saying, well, you have the bill, you know what the bill says. But she had to keep on asking her over and over again. Like, this woman, I don't like her. I don't like her demeanor. I don't like her attitude. She seems like she thinks that she's better than everybody else and she doesn't need to answer any questions. And here she's about to do it again. This is the epitome of the Democrats that I've watched in the Senate, in the House, on interviews, like everything. They always stick with the narrative and they never answer the questions unless it fits the narrative.
Then to draw the lines, I mean, we're just trying to ascertain who exactly is responsible for drawing these maps at this point.
So the criteria has remained the same from the CRC. 76% of the districts remain the same, and that is what Californians will see. There are many folks, stakeholders, who've had an input on the map drawing process, but ultimately this is up to the decision of California voters, whereas the CRC.
Who are the stakeholders? What? Are y'all lobbying with this map? Like, are you allowing people to lobby and weigh in on this map? Who are the stakeholders? Oh my God, y'all.
Which we respect. We want to make sure that there's a nationwide Citizens Redistricting Commission, but the reality is we are in an emergency, and this is our emergency response. We're giving Californians over 2.5 months to review these maps thoroughly and make a decision on whether or not we move forward with this constitutional amendment.
But is the state Senate Elections Committee, we drew these maps? Like, you're ready to say that too?
The Senate Rules Committee put these maps, the census tracks, onto the website.
So legislators drew the maps? Can we say that to our viewers?
Again, this was from CRC's criteria. Millions of
right. We need to know create the maps. Was it Paul Mitchell?
They don't want you to know.
It was input again from testimony.
It was drew them out.
It was testimony that was given to the CRC.
By whom?
We're remaining consistent, making sure we're keeping
by who, Sabrina?
Together.
Don't they deserve to know who drew these maps?
Again, this is the most transparent process.
No, it's not.
Who drew the maps?
This is the most transparent process.
If you're not interested in that, can we ask a few other questions? Sure. Not yet. So the two women you just saw there, again, they were the leaders of the legislature's elections committees. Neither would really tell us who is responsible for these maps. The Speaker's office also keeps reiterating that this is a collaboration, but again, not giving specifics. As you heard in part of those exchanges, the maps were tweaked slightly between Friday and Monday, but no one still at this hour will tell us who exactly
made those changes.
Or why they made
Or why they made the changes.
Yeah, it just doesn't feel, they keep saying that this is the most transparent, but they're just not answering a very simple question that would make it more transparent.
Yeah.
Republicans today asked the California State Supreme Court to get involved in all of this. So what do we know about that?
Right at this point, we are waiting to see if the California Supreme Court tells state lawmakers to slow down on all of this. Republicans are claiming the legislature is violating the state constitution, which requires new proposals like this one to have a 30-day review period before state lawmakers take action on it. With that, they want the court to stop the legislature from taking this up for the next month. They hope to have a ruling from the court tomorrow.
Tomorrow is today, and the Supreme Court declined, so it's moving forward. And I'm gonna hug my Dead Sea Scrolls for the rest of this video, because all these lying ass MF, and I know it's ironic that I cuss a lot and I'm holding the Bible, but y'all, we don't all believe the same shit, okay? Some of us believe that cussing is fine, all right? Jesus has never whispered in my ear and said, Ryan, you better stop that, okay? Just pointing that out. But Lord have mercy, these lying MFers. Lying. Who are the stakeholders? Huh? She didn't say legislators in that sentence. She said stakeholders weighed in. What does that mean, Sabrina? What does that mean? And then they go and immediately in the next sentence say, this is the most transparent process ever. What? What? Y'all, do you feel like you just lost your mind as much as I did and you need to hold your Bible as well? Go get it. Go get it and hold it. Oh my Lord, have mercy on my soul. These people are going to hell. Let me know in the comments below, what do you guys think? Make sure to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any content. There's a bunch of people out there that are watching my videos that are not subscribed. Hit the button. It's free. I'll see you on the next one.